listening to a One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast that tells the stories of craft beer in Minnesota and beyond. So kick back, relax, and grab a cold one. The show starts now. Hello, my name is Dan Bobian, and I write, produce, and host a One Pint Stand. I'm ecstatic that you're listening. This episode of a One Pint Stand is proudly sponsored by Railworks Brewing Depot, Columbia Heights' first brew pub, proudly serving homemade barbecue, delicious cocktails and mocktails, and a large variety of craft beers. RailworksBrewingDepot.com. On this episode, I sit down with Derek Brown and Mike Hoops of Town Hall Brewery to chat about their upcoming Barrel Aged Beer Week event that will run from Thursday, February 20th to Sunday, March 2nd. Town Hall is in a class by itself when it comes to quality and variety. They have delicious food and wonderfully crafted cocktails to go with their incredible lineup of beers. However, Barrel Aged Week is the crown jewel of Minnesota craft beer events. So let's head out to Town Hall Brewery for my chat with Derek and Mike. Cheers. Welcome to another on-location episode of a One Pint Stand. I'm your host, Dan Bobian. Today, we are very fortunate to be at Town Hall Brewery's mothership at Seven Corners in Minneapolis. I'm being joined by Derek Brown and Mike Hoops, some of the minds behind the madness here at Town Hall. And we are, what are we? Let's see, about 18 days to the beginning. It's actually Groundhog's Day. I don't know if either one of you were awakened by somebody that you cohabitate with playing the YouTube version of I Got You, Babe, this morning at 5:59 a.m., but that's how I woke up, because Groundhog's Day is a big deal in our house, and, I didn't see Punxsutawney Phil, but I was like, what's going on? So, we're here about, we're 18 days before and I know I speak for hundreds, if not thousands, of people who love barrel-aged beers when I say, I've got my paper chain going in my bedroom to when the barrel-aged week starts. So I want to thank both of you for sitting down with me today to talk beer.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
On Groundhog's Day on a Sunday.
Yes, I know. If we see any, I was tempted to bring a woodchuck. I think there's one burrowed in my yard, but I didn't, so I got the microphones instead. And we've got a lot to talk about. I was telling Derek that maybe 4 pages of notes was a little over the top. We don't have to talk about everything, but this has been... I've been looking forward to sitting down with you both again. I know we did it a couple of years ago, way back when, probably in 2016, when Eric used to be co-hosting the show with me. But, a lot has changed since then. So before we kind of delve into all the nuts and bolts of what is Town Hall Brewery and what is Barrel Aged Week, if you could each introduce yourself and say what your role is here at Town Hall.
My name is Mike Hoops. I've been here for about 25 years, and my role is in question daily, it seems. I like to say I'm the head barrel wrangler.
Head barrel wrangler. I like that. How about you, Derek?
Yeah. My name is Derek Brown. I'm head brewer here. That's an odd way to... I haven't said that publicly, I don't think.
Yeah, it sounds nice.
Now,
it has a good ring to it, I think.
It just means I got my head in everything.
Yeah,
Every cooler and every keg and every tank.
Yeah. And that's, Town Hall is synonymous with quality, great variety, and this is a very special place to a lot of people. Derek, tell me, if somebody has not been to Town Hall yet, give me like the Cliff Notes version, or kind of like the pitch of why somebody should come into this amazing brew pub.
Oh, it's a complicated question. Simply put, I would say it is a very unique experience here in the cities. It does have that old school brew pub feel to it. I think that has a lot of draw into sitting down and enjoying a couple pints.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. You can be here and enjoy almost any type of beer style. And for the most part, those beer styles are ever changing too,
Right.
where maybe they're not leading the industry in innovation, but we're kind of looking back and doing some styles that might get looked over here and there, and we're able to do that because we have multiple locations that we know confidently that the beer will actually move. It's not just sitting around.
Yeah.
So it allows us to do a lot of fun old styles.
Right.
So you can get a Grand Cru, you can get a Belgian Bruin,
Yeah.
styles like that is kind of what I'm referring to.
When I tell people about Town Hall, I tell them this is a craft beer person's brew pub, because it's not just as craft beer evolves and changes and people's tastes change. I think the big constant for a lot of really passionate craft beer drinkers is the variety that's out there.
Yeah.
I think that's what got everybody into craft beer, and the fact that there are so many wonderful options, not only just here, but at several of the other locations around town. I think it's just a fabulous place to come. And when people come visit, this is one of the places I will bring somebody who's really into beer if they're visiting the Twin Cities, just because of the quality and the variety and kind of like the feel, the staff, everything is very solid.
Yeah, and you can have a cask beer here.
That's true. Yes. One of the places, I think you've got 3 beer engines out there.
We have 6 total, and right now there are 4 that
Okay.
are live.
Yeah.
During the wintertime, it's shrink that down a little bit. Just we want all the cask beer to be good, no matter which one you get.
Yeah.
But at any point in time, it could be 6.
Yeah. It's just something you don't see
Yeah.
very often,
Yeah.
which is a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's its own subject.
Well, right. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
So, once a year, there's a lot of great reasons, a lot of great times to come to Town Hall. I've been here for the blessing of the Maibach. There's always, when Petunia's pumpkin beer is on, I'm like the 1% of people who really love pumpkin beers. That comes on in the fall. You have a lot of really iconic seasonals, but I think the number one thing that when you ask people in the know about Town Hall Brewery, they say Barrel Aged Week. So here we are, about 18 days before Barrel Aged Week starts. Mike, I'm wondering if you can kind of give me a brief history of Barrel Aged Week, how it started, and kind of what it's evolved into.
We're really lucky in regard to barrel aging beers. Of course, barrel aging 1992. Greg Hall started it with Bourbon County, and we soon after that we read some stuff and figured out, how can we do this? Let's give it a shot. So literally, I called Jack Daniel's general store directly and said, "Hey, I want to do this thing where I put beer in a barrel. How do I do that? Can I get one?" "Sure, no problem." Nice Southern hospitality, doing whatever we can to help. We'll sell you a barrel for $75, and we'll ship it on up to you.
Those were simpler times.
It is very much simpler times, and I was recently just asked, how do you determine what beers to put in barrels, and I'm thinking back to that original story. It was our first forte. Jack Daniel's wasn't rinsing barrels. It came directly out of the dumping line and shipped here 2 days later. And the logical thing was, okay, big, bold wood whiskey barrel. You have to have a big, bold beer, right?
Yeah.
So, our Imperial Stout went in there, and Zarjak was born. And it worked incredibly well. Customers went ape about it.
Yeah.
And as far as producing it, very, very fun, because you can have ideas of what it will be or should be. But when you actually taste it, did you hit that? Or are there new things that you don't know about? So early on, for whatever reason, I fell in love with it. And Pete, the founder, I went to him and said, "Pete, this is kind of a fun deal, and the customers loved it. Maybe we should pick a time in the dead of winter and try to grab a hold and promote this barrel-aged beer thing.
Yeah.
And invest a little bit of money in it and grow it."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, let's do it." And little by little, there was a second beer and a third beer, and then people, if we didn't make it the following year, they're like, "How come you don't have this?" And by people, I mean our customers. So we're very, very lucky. They were there with us from the beginning, building this thing, and they said, "We want this." So then, okay, if we want to make a new one, we still have to make the old ones. So you've got 3, or you've got 4, or you've got 6, or whatever. And now it's getting hard because not only do you have to find the barrels and source them, but you've got to get people that want to do the work and care for them the way they need to be cared for to get them to the people so they're happy and it fulfills whatever desire they have too.
Yeah.
So what we did is we just kept on growing it, and we kept on investing money in it. And eventually we put a key in the ignition and drove down to Kentucky because I was convinced I needed to have a Pappy Van Winkle barrel to work with, and nobody would sell me one. So I'm like, well, let's go down there and figure out how to get one.
Yeah.
And Pete looked at me and kind of raises one eyebrow like he does, and said, "Okay, let's go." And that's a whole other podcast with some of those stories. But we've gone through some of our best and worst times on those trips. But that's part of the brotherly relationship we have, and how we were able to grow it. But now we go down a couple times a year. We've got relationships with distillers and people that we've met over the years and learned tons and tons of stuff from them, and realized that at this point the barrels that we were able to source pretty much tell us what we listen to them.
Yeah.
We do sensory that says we need this or that, and we try to put the beers in them that they're asking for. And Derek's doing a wonderful job. He's driving himself nuts trying to create those beers ahead of time too.
Yeah. So Derek, when you start thinking about, this year, the Town Hall Barrel Aged Week goes from Thursday, February 20th to Sunday, March 2nd. On March 3rd, do you sit down and start thinking, well, kind of create a new page in the notebook for what beers you're going to do next year? Or what's the thought process behind how you kind of prepare for Barrel Aged Week when it comes to the beers?
Well, luckily they're all already done prior to Barrel Aged Week. There's enough going on. This year we have X amount coming out, and each one of those is a week and a half on its own just to get it out of a barrel into a tank, get it clarified and carbonated, and then into a container. So having the legwork done for all the beers that we need to make is really important. Get that done.
Yeah.
And, brew pubs start slowing down once the college starts to fill up. So we have or at least our location does. So we have a lot of opportunity to start filling tanks come September.
Okay.
And that's really the time to start getting them done.
Okay.
Because in November it's time to start harvesting barrels and start working on that and getting tanks clear. And, a lot of these barrel aged beers, really the magic inside the barrel is time. And that's, the beer itself prior to barrel, it does need time. These are ginormous beers.
Right.
That require a lot of careful execution, just, anywhere from sourcing the ingredients to the fermentation, which is never fun. The big beers are harder to make in fermentation for everybody, including the yeast.
Yeah.
So getting all that done and off your plate already is really important for creating the space in this brewery to process these beers.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to beers that work well in a barrel, conventional wisdom might tell you that the bigger the beer, the maltier the beer, the better an option it is for barrel aging. Are there specific styles of beer that really lend themselves to that? I know that there's quite a few bigger Belgian beers that you've put in barrels over the years. And are there beer styles that, you cannot barrel age a pale ale? That's a bad idea for many reasons. How does that work? Like, how do you decide which styles of the ones that you brew would make sense in a barrel?
Sure. But this might be a two-headed question,
Sure.
him and I. A lot of these styles that are in our Barrel Age Week, they've already been created. It's, as far as me getting them executed, they've already been created for me.
Yeah.
These existed before I got here. Now, with that said, it's a collaborative effort to make sure that that end product, his vision to get these barrel aged beers where he wants them, that requires a little bit of homework before we even make it. And,
Yeah.
Prior to being here, I think that's where I was before. It was just, make a big beer, put it in a barrel.
Right.
A lot of the times they're turning out good. That might be true to some degree, but I couldn't even tell you how much I've learned about the small little steps, even understanding the distillate that might be in that barrel and how that's going to actually play into the alcohol you make, or the amount of dark malt you've got in there, or that little edge of brown malt you put in there, why that does actually play a role a year and a half or 2 years later.
Yeah.
It's, again, a lot of those recipes existed, and we're working on them every year and playing around with them a little differently.
Mm-hmm. When you say it depends on the distillate, a question I have is so a lot of the research, I'm guessing, is understanding that bourbons are not all the same, just like beer styles. I mean, you could go from one style to the next, or you could take your Belgian quad and compare it to Arbeiter's Belgian quad. There might be some differences and things like that. When it comes to the barrels that you use and the type of spirit in them, how much of that sensory experience of sipping a bourbon translates to the beer when you decide to put the beer in that barrel?
We found out a few years ago more than more than we knew, because you think that distillate that goes into a barrel, in the case of whiskey or bourbons, it's clear.
Yeah.
If you've tasted White Dog before, very few of them have a tremendous amount of flavor. Some of them do. And if you think about where all that beauty comes from in that glass of whiskey, you're looking largely to the wood. Now, I'm not trying to underestimate, the distillate that's being produced. It's incredibly important. But there's chemistry there that does take place. And ultimately, when you taste your glass of whiskey, that's something that we learned, when we go on these trips. And we only drank glasses of whiskey because we were doing research, of course.
Right, yeah. But there's no other reason
Obviously.
to want to consume bourbon other than research purposes, right?
But we quickly realized, you get a barrel and it's like, man, this tastes just like so-and-so dram that we had the other night. There's characters in there. So then we started looking at that nugget, light turned on. It's like, oh, okay. We should assume that some of those characters in that glass of spirit is going to come through from the barrel.
Yeah.
And potentially, are we going to get similar characters? And how do we do that? What temp are they at? And what length of time? And et cetera, et cetera. And it's remarkable. That's one of the things that Derek and I have done together is really spend a lot of time on the distillate, not sit around drinking whiskey, but
Not that there's anything wrong with that, folks.
But we would analyze, we were whiskey geeks like crazy, sitting in a corner. Look at those guys with their glasses on, staring at a glass of whiskey. Well, what we were doing is, at different temps, what do we taste? Okay, is that character something that we can recognize from said beer? Well, then we put it together and tried it, and it'd be like, oh, that worked great, or that created a third object that we weren't expecting. It's like, oh, okay, this plus that equals that other thing. It's endless. It's really, really enjoyable.
Well, one of the things I learned when I did my first, I dipped my toe in the bourbon world last summer when I went down to Louisville, and I went to a handful of distilleries just within Louisville's city limits. So I didn't get out on the bourbon trail, but I learned quite a bit, and I was just floored with the variation from a barrel on the bottom row in a rick house. And rick house is a word for kind of like the warehouse where bourbon is aged in barrels. And the temperature variation from the bottom of that stack to the top of that stack could vary by however many degrees. And one of the things I learned about Kentucky and why so much bourbon comes from Kentucky is they have the equal number of cold days as they do warm days. So the natural temperature variations allow that distillate, the whiskey, to expand and contract. And that is what gives you the coaxes flavors out of the wood. And to me, that is mind-blowing. Just from the sense of like, okay, that's crazy because you're so at the mercy of time. And it's not like, Derek, if you decide to tweak a recipe, that might, be happen in the span of a couple months. So like, oh, I wonder if we try a little bit of this malt in this beer. You can't really tweak a recipe of Elijah Craig because that then takes time. So a distiller will maybe get the chance to change a recipe maybe once during their career as far as like waiting for that thing. To me, that's insane. And so like understanding that created, when I started learning about how bourbon is made and how it ages in the barrel and how the variations can happen from the same liquid made from the same recipe, depending on which barrel you choose, they're all different. And then they were talking about, there's people at these distilleries that, when they're blending and they're tasting like, oh, this needs go get me a sample from the third row of column 47 in this thing. I was like, wait, what? I can't even match up my socks. And these people are doing, it was mind-blowing. So, knowing that all of that alchemy has already occurred, what is the, how much flavor can beer coax from a barrel that's already been used?
A lot. There's one distiller in particular that I've grown very fond of, and learning the mash bills that they use and the codes they put on their barrels, it's amazing how repeatable with the same beer that code is.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And again, the same code applying to where we think the barrel came from. The exterior of the barrel can actually tell you a lot about where in that rick house it was stored.
Okay.
High or low.
Yeah.
Obviously, they probably rotated or, they got their own magic they're doing. But there's little nuggets that, especially getting down there, I can't emphasize how much of a useful tool that was, just being down there and experiencing it and smelling the rick houses and understanding that that's an actual character that I can take out of a beer that comes out of a barrel.
Yeah.
It's, whether or not that's the actual rick house, but applying it at least, it's repeatable. But yeah, those codes translate into different characters. One of the biggest mind-blowing flavors I've had out of a barrel down there was curry. And
Interesting.
Out of the same distiller that I'm talking about, there was a code that follows that, and I knew about it, and I finally got it, and I was like, oh my God, there it is. I finally got it. I finally understand it because it was a single barrel.
Okay.
So it was really emphasizing that character, and I just it implanted into my brain to keep that code and follow it. And when I see it come out of a barrel in a beer, now I know.
And were you able to get so what would cause like that's the other mind-blowing thing to me about how you taste certain whiskeys and certain different barrels and you'll get totally different characters. What would create a curry flavor in bourbon?
I mean, I can't speak for them creating that character. I would have to guess it's going to be a lot to do with that mash bill and fermentation.
Okay.
And then whether it's luck or not, how they're, the age of that oak or where it was placed in that rick house. I mean, that's a question I have too.
Yeah.
Maybe Mike has a little more.
I don't have anything directly to say this is exactly why this happened, but you guys both touch on something that's very, very interesting and exciting for me because, Dan, you went to Kentucky and immediately you start talking about different temperatures. Derek tasted in distillate some curry, and all of a sudden, if you're just the right amount of geek, you start paying attention to that stuff and you start learning, okay, this barrel is really dusty on the outside and dirty. That was down near the bottom. Maybe it was over a dirt floor, probably 50 degrees. This one is clean as a whistle. Maybe it was way in the upper stories that in the summer gets to 110 as opposed to 50 degrees. And what are the different flavors? And that's when we started here trying to work with different temperatures and we just got, just as Derek said, being there, and as you said, you see things and your mind thinks, and we've been so fortunate to have customers supporting our addiction to this quest, if you will, to be able to, okay, we saw this in a rick house. Can we do this?
Yeah.
And then we do it, and 2 years later you taste it, and it's like, that's exactly what's there. The thing with this curry, that's a crazy one. He was talking about that for a while, and I hadn't gotten it. And we were actually there one day. He was sitting in, I know exactly where we were, and he said, it's here in this glass. And I ordered one. I was just shocked. I eat a lot of curry. I love curry. And it was like a plate of curry in a whiskey, and it worked beautifully.
Okay.
And yes, and he's tracked that down. He knows the code, and there's a lot of that stuff. That's how Town Hall barrel aging has happened. It's like, okay, this happened. Let's go track it down and figure out why, and see if we can repeat it. And fortunately, we've had people backing us so that we can continue to do that research. It's been great.
Well, I think one of the things, there's a lot of breweries all over the country who are putting beer into barrels. They're not necessarily all bourbon barrels, but there's this idea that, hey, there is a big appetite for wood-aged beers, and so if you put beer in a barrel, that just makes it special. I'm willing to bet that there's a fairly high percentage of people doing that who really don't understand the level of education and trial and error that you have to do to put yourself in a position to be fairly successful with the finished product. What are some lessons or maybe pieces of advice that you would give brewers if they're considering starting up a barrel program? And this is for both of you, because I know you each have unique brewing experiences.
Let's see, I would say, and this is a hard one to do, but we have luxury of doing that here, is investing deep right away. So putting a lot into barrels allows you the comfort of selecting, and that's something that just within the last couple of years we've really gotten good at, just by staying ahead of it and being on top of everything, because it's not always going to be ready, and you can't just take it out. I hope I'm not answering for you here. You can't just take it out when you think it's time, like because it's been a year or whatever your number is. It really is like something to say about the barrel speaking to you and telling you that it's ready. Not literally, but like it comes to a point where it's starting to go the other way. You got to catch it right there on the cliff.
What is kind of that sweet spot? Is there? I mean, would you say maybe you tasted a beer that you're like, well, we think it should be ready now, and it still wasn't quite there. You're like, maybe this needs another month or two.
Yeah.
Is there if you just brew a beer, put it in a barrel, I'm like, I'm not going to touch this for 3 years. Is that a good idea?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Personally, I mean, I think you going on that journey with that barrel is really important for your next round that you do for yourself, to understand what the ingredients you use prior to putting it into the barrel too, and watching how they react with that barrel itself. You got to track it pretty tight.
Yeah.
There's no, this will be ready in 2 years. Let's just put it in there and wait.
Right.
Who knows? It could be ready in 6 months. Just got to watch it.
Yeah.
Track it.
Yeah. How about you, Mike? What advice would you give somebody who's thinking about making a significant investment in a barrel aging program?
We visited a brewery out east that had been doing barrel aging for a long time, and they took a great deal of time with us to show us their entire program. And I still remember at one point we walked past one aging area, and they said, this is where we do X. And we go through on a schedule and taste it X amount of time, and if there's anything that's out of spec, we destroy it immediately. We don't try to make it something else. We don't think it's good enough, blend it off, it won't matter. We destroy it immediately. And that was a lot of years ago. And at first, coming back from that trip, we discussed that very statement that's crazy. there goes the beer, there goes the barrel, just like that. And that has come to be so true in what we've learned. There's been a couple of barrels in the last couple of years where let's try longer age, let's try a different temperature, let's see how it changes. And ultimately, we destroyed them. And that was years ago where that statement is like, don't try to, cloud over anybody. You're not going to get what you desire. And we learned that. We've never released any of those, but we tried to age it longer. We tried to mix it, blend it, whatever. And ultimately we destroyed it, and they were right. Don't ever punt. It's good enough. It's not.
Yeah. Well, especially because, I'm sure as you're taking all those readings and doing all that stuff, you learn a lot. I mean, I'm always telling my students, you learn more about yourself when something doesn't go well than when it goes well. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure nobody knows that better than you two, as you've, come up with recipes, come up with ideas like, well, this kind of went a different direction than we anticipated. Yeah. Why? What can we learn from that? Yeah. What can we do differently? When you brew a batch, let's take Zarjak, for example. When you brew a batch of that, how much do you... so Jack Frost is the original beer.
Correct.
The base beer, I guess we would say. How much Jack Frost do you kind of earmark for barrels? Is that the same every time, or is it kind of different based on how the demand for just the regular beer is going?
Me, I've always got it earmarked for barrels.
Okay.
It's a good beer, but our barrel age program sort of is... it takes so much time to get ready for it that having more than less allows you to do some of that. If it's not ready or if it's not good, get rid of it, and you've got more product to put into barrels. That's really, really important to have a backup plan and have everything ready, including more beer.
Yeah.
That's not to say we don't release it. A couple kegs will go on. It's a hard sell right now with a 10% Imperial Stout. There's not a lot of people drinking those.
Well, that's... yeah, I mean, that doesn't compute with me.
Right. Well,
the weather's cold enough.
Yeah. We've always got
the
one
day
on like
ended
that.
in a Y. Okay, I'll have one. Just kidding. I know I'm not the regular crowd, but
and we've got so many tanks back there that with the right crew that we have, keeping that Tetris puzzle moving, we can make 20 kegs of that, and we don't need all 20 for barrelage, and we got the storage. We've invested into that too, so we have the storage to keep them cold.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice because the stuff that goes into barrels and it gets on its journey. But we also it gives us the opportunity to have a Imperial Stout and a barley wine and a Weizenbach and a Grand Cru, and on I could go. But the beautiful thing is the customer can come in and have a 10-ounce glass of a sipper, great big huge beer that they don't often see at other breweries because the barrel is driving the fact that we still get to serve those to everybody. And we do get a lot of customers that come in and sip on those just simply because they're there and they're offered. Yeah. And I've had other brewers, one in particular, it's like, man, you're so lucky you still get to brew these. We can't sell them. And that statement, it resonates so much. We're lucky of how we're able to utilize some of those traditional styles.
Yeah. But a vast majority that we do brew will go into the barrels, but then we will. What Mike was saying is we'll keep a quarter of that, and it'll rotate throughout the year, so people can walk in and have there's so many of them, so it's hard to keep them all on at the same time. But there's usually one big beer on at all times. Yeah.
One of the many things I appreciate about Barrel Aged Week is that it happens here at the Town Hall Brewery first at Seven Corners. Then there are subsequent events at the other locations, the lanes, the tap, the station, that will get some of those beers on tap. And so, it's a nice thing. Like if you missed one during Barrel Aged Week, you can just kind of keep your eyes on the other social media of the other satellite locations and be able to find it. How many beers will be unveiled for the 2025 Barrel Aged Week?
Dan,
And if I start drooling and my eyes go back in the show, just keep on talking, Will. I will
love this.
revive myself.
that's a very good question, and it's an interesting one. You look at two guys that are very tired at this point.
Yeah.
There was a conversation we had a few months ago. We're lucky enough to have enough barrels where we can go pick and choose. You ask about Zarjack, how many do we sell? Well, we harvest the barrels that are ready. So maybe we harvest 1 barrel, or maybe we harvest 4, and then they continue to age until they are harvested. But the thing that's interesting, when we were going through and doing our testing, it's like, have you looked at that list, Derek? I said, and he's like, well, not really. I said, well, I was jotting some stuff down the other day, and it's borderline ridiculous. What should we do? Should we just keep them back? Because there's no way we should do this. And he said, what's the point of that? I said, that's a good point. So this year we're releasing, when it opens on February 20th,
Yep.
doors open at 11 a.m., our customers will have the opportunity to try 25 different beers.
Good golly.
Yikes.
Oh, that's a lot. How many did you last year? You had what, 15? I want to say 15 or 16.
I would have to look at a menu.
Okay.
But yeah, it was not 25.
Okay, yeah.
It's normally like a dozen-ish.
Okay, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a big. Do you attribute that to just luck, stars aligning, or maybe like the last couple of years you've held back a little bit just because of perceived what the demand might be? And I know that there's some years where because of COVID or whatever, it's a little slow, but I feel like the last couple of years when you've started extending it past because it used to just be literally a week, it's a little bit longer in the last couple of years. What do you attribute that to?
I think we were just so prepared. There's a beer that is going to be coming out that was brewed in 2021.
Okay.
And just through its journey, it found its new home in different barrels because it wanted to go there.
Yeah.
And it just happens to be this year it's added to the menu. And that's happened, with some of the other barrels that I know are coming out. They weren't ready. And we were learning about the barrel too. So it was a give and take a little bit, but they're definitely ready this year. And that just all kind of came to.
Yeah.
There was nothing, like Mike said, I've been helping with this for a while. I didn't think 25 this year, even knowing what was in there. And I do the inventory every month.
Yeah.
And I do but still didn't think of that. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, yeah, there are 25 that are ready.
We started finding that whole gift of time. The distillers talk about it. We started learning that gift of time is valid in our warehouse as well, in our storage area as well. So 2-3 years ago, we started housing more barrels, thinking that, okay, let's make a deeper library so we can pick and choose exactly what is correct, and if it's not ready, it's not. The one he's talking about, I think the one you're talking about, oh, no, you're not, you're talking about a different one. The one that I'm thinking of that's been in wood for 3 years, it's my favorite. I'm not going to say what it is. It floored me when I tasted it, and Derek will probably attest to that, but it wasn't by choice. It was supposed to come out last year as a double barrel. It just wasn't ready. We looked at each other. It's like, well, it's not ready. Let's leave it in this environment and see what it does. And this year, it's like it smacked us in the nose and said, "I'm an all-star." And
Yeah.
it's really, really surprising and enjoying.
Now, when you say a beer isn't ready, what are you specifically speaking of? Is that from sometimes you taste a beer and it just feels a little too sharp? It needs some of that edge a little bit rounded out. Mm-hmm. Is it too hot? Is it that there was an aromatic in the bourbon that you wanted to be a little bit more front-facing that is kind of in the background as you can pick out, but you're like, well, I think if we give this a little longer, maybe we'll get that hit of dry, like dark cherry that we really liked when we sampled that bourbon.
I think a lot of it is understanding where the barrels came from and then knowing how far they'll go, which is what we keep talking about, how deep we are.
Yeah.
Because there are certain brands that you'll you all of a sudden the oak will just start taking over everything. Yeah, but we've
Right.
gone that far with it, and the barrel never, that beer never made it to the menu. But that R&D was really important.
Yep.
But you can watch it, watching its journey very closely. You can watch it creep up to that point. So oak is one of them. Just the marriage of flavors and how developed they are, and that's over tasting it, months at a time.
Yeah.
You start watching it closer, you're like, okay, there it comes. We're starting to get a little bit of that, char that we were talking about before with this same beer, same distillery, same code on it. It just needs a little more time. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden it comes up, and there it is. And then you kind of know
That's
it's
got to be
ready.
a really fun day, right?
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah.
just tasting it. Well,
Well,
all right.
I think for the brewers like Mike and I, there's a lot of emotion attached to what we do, and you get there and you've been waiting for this to happen. You've been waiting for all that hard work you put into getting the grain, getting the beer done, getting it to get down to Kentucky and get the barrels, and then it's finally happening, and it's going to be something special. It's really rewarding to get
Yeah.
to that point, and that barrel telling you that it's there. You kind of just feel it out because you've been tasting it along the way.
Yeah.
And a little bit of knowing where it could go, and that's not exactly what we want. Let's stop it right now. That's really important.
Yeah. So 25 beers release on Thursday, February 20th. Of those beers, I think there's always crowd favorites. One of the lovely things about Town Hall is it has a very fervent, regular following. There's a lot of people that I see here for Barrel Aged Week that I see every year here at Barrel Aged Week. It's very, you have really loyal fans. What are some of the ones? I'm sure when you pop your head out in the bar every now and again, or you're passing through. I'm sure there's always some regular who's like, "Hey, Mike, okay, when are you going to bring this one back?" What are some of the crowd favorites that they just demand every year?
We do have people that do that, and they'll grab you and be very incognito about what they're saying, but they're actually not. They're like, "I want this beer, make it." And there are some, and we consider ourselves really lucky that we do have that. This year, WL Butterball is coming back out, and that was one that came out 2 years ago. There was a barrel that was just, I'm not going to go exactly into the barrel, but the bourbon that comes from the barrel is incredibly buttery, and the barrel did it, and it's like, man, we're tasting, it's like, this is like a caramel butterball. And it's like, well, let's release it as such. And it went nuts. And last year we didn't have it, and I was asked about it a lot. It's coming back this year. There was we were lucky enough to be able to find one that was close. But yeah, there are people that they have their favorites, and there are people that want to jump around to whatever's new. And we're lucky to have both of those people here.
Yeah. One thing that caught my eye last year was the pear mixed culture beer.
Yeah.
That was so fantastic. And
Yeah.
I tend to gravitate towards the maltier, bigger beers. I think my favorite, I think the best year there's two. There's always the double-barreled extra milk stout. That is fantastic. And that's why I'm like, oh, I got to get here when that releases, and I got to come back soon enough so I can get another full pour and just really enjoy it.
Not this year, Dan. You can have it anytime.
So excited. The other one is one year it was either a single barrel or a star barrel of the ETW. And that, to me, is as good as it gets. But that mixed culture pear, I still remember it. That's a sign of a beer when you can remember it.
Yep.
A year later. The smell, the feel, the aftertaste. Such a well-made beer.
Yeah, I mean that whole program has got a lot of love. It's one of the reasons I'm still sitting here is we're allowed to do those types of beers that you really only read about. It's not even easy to taste them anymore, especially in that segment is kind of dying off a little bit. And they're really, I'm not going to say difficult. They just require a lot of brewer, your time,
Yeah.
your mind, your energy to make them. And when they're done and you finally get there, again, same with the barrel age, that is a barrel aged beer. It's just not bourbon.
Right.
It's only been created in the barrel. And you're giving all that hard work to microorganisms that you don't know them on a personal level other than tasting what they've done. You can't crop them and repitch them. You're putting them into wood. You're hoping essentially that it recreates the same flavor. And when it happens, it's really special.
Yeah.
And this year, we've got one that's all that love that you give that barrel and hope that it happens. Mike can talk about the story a little bit, but we have the Balaton barrel coming.
Derek was talking about emotion, and this is one. A few years ago, I drove 12 hours to a cherry orchard and decided we needed to get some Balaton cherries to inoculate a barrel. Why? I don't know, because that's what I wanted to do, and it sounded interesting. And actually, I've got a colleague in Oregon that did something similar with the local cherry orchard, and it was outstanding. So I said, well, there's no reason we can't do it. So I hopped in the car. 12 hours later, I have these cherries in a cooler, back of the car, drive all the way back. And Derek's looking at me like, what? You're insane. I'm like, yes, maybe.
How often does that happen? The mad scientist.
Yep.
It's like, well, here we go again.
And ultimately, the food that we feed the mixed cultures, in other words, our own version of the historic turbid mash style Belgian production. That's what we do to feed our mixed culture. And in this case, we took that and we fed those cherries. And it's like there's going to be organisms on the cherries, and we can inoculate a barrel, right? And again, it's like, right? And neither of us were certain that would happen. 2 years later, we've got an inoculated barrel with those cherries that's out of this world, and that is the Balaton barrel that's released this year. And
Okay.
And yeah, we sampled it the other day, and it was one of those special moments that he talked about the emotion. That was one of them. This is a beer you certainly want to try.
Yeah.
And it turned out well.
One of the ones, yeah, for me, you only read, part of being a brewer, I fell in love with the lore of that type of brewing. You can take a fruit and make a beer out of it from start to finish, and just never had an opportunity to do it until now, and to see it actually happen, and it worked. That's pretty magical.
Yeah. Something you said earlier, Derek, I want to circle back to. You said that style or type of beer is kind of dying off, and I think you were speaking of like a mixed culture beer with fruit in it. I'm gonna politely disagree, because I think that when most people think of a fruited sour, they think of a beer that is nobody's driving 12 hours to go find the specific type of cherries from an orchard. They're getting some sort of fruit puree.
Oh, yeah.
And they're putting it in, and it's rushed. I think that there needs to be, and this is where I would love it if more breweries would really kind of explain the difference.
Sure.
To the drinker that might not know, who hasn't maybe talked to people who've done this, and because not all fruited sour beers are the same. And so I think like putting really a quality product in a barrel and letting it do its thing is a whole different experience than a kettle sour. Mm-hmm. And I think that people like a well-made, spontaneously fermented, wood-aged beer with fruit, because it doesn't have a lot of those like kind of sharp edges. It's not that it doesn't instantly have you reaching for your bag of Tums.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that struck me about that pear mixed culture beer is it had the right amount of sweetness, a little bit of acidity, a little bit of effervescence, but it was not a beer that I'm like, okay, I can only have 5 ounces of this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could have several pours of this and would be very happy about it. So So I think I wish that there was more articulation from the brewery standpoint to be like, okay, so this is this type of sour.
Yeah.
It does have fruit flavors, but it is not. We did not go to an orchard and get fruit and let it sit in a barrel for a long time to kind of get to its optimal point.
Right.
Of the beers releasing, of the 25 beers releasing this year, how many are of the kind of like, refresh my memory, that mixed culture pear, what type of a barrel was that aged in? Do you remember?
So again, these aren't like the bourbon barrel age programs. These are the fermentation vessels.
Okay, all right.
So these don't change. These
Okay.
are now the house, kind of character, the strains that we've grown, they are now inside that wood. And to replicate that, it's important to use that same vessel again and again.
Okay.
The Balaton is unique in a sense where there is a little bit of, and purposely put in there, a little bit of oak character.
Okay.
Because it was freshly inoculated. It wasn't from an existing strain that we've used.
When it comes to barrels, I mean, are you reusing barrels after you pull a beer out to serve? Because I know that bourbon has to be, the thing that makes bourbon is it has to be it's a single-use charred oak barrel. So they're not reusing it. Are you able to reuse barrels with beer?
I can quickly answer one of them. No, we don't reuse them. We actually donate them to the Minnehaha watershed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they make they have a program. They put on a program every spring where they make them into rain barrels.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, we don't. Yeah.
There was a time early on when we reused barrels, when we were learning how and what they can do. So there was one barrel, a bourbon barrel, that we used up to 3 times, and we stopped doing that after we learned what that did, and that was a lot of years ago. But yeah, it works out great. It's a community operation. They water their gardens with it. It's wonderful.
So we've talked about the beers. I think now would be a good time to take a break because I've got an empty glass. And when we come back, I want to get more into the sourcing of the barrels and what that process is like and how it has changed over the years. And we're here at Town Hall Brewery with Derek and Mike, and you are listening to A One Pint Stand. Hey, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you are enjoying A One Pint Stand. My aim is to help spread the word about craft beer. Enjoying craft beer is a passion of mine, and I love chatting about it with other people. A One Pint Stand has a goal of helping breweries tell their stories. I love to get out in and beyond Minnesota to visit breweries, beer bars, and meet other interesting beer people. Now, if you're also into those things, you probably want to keep tabs on the show. So go ahead and follow A One Pint Stand on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky. I also started a TikTok account because I was tired of Charles calling me a boomer for not having one. Now, there was some consternation among people about whether or not TikTok was going away. Well, it's still here, so for now, we're still keeping it around. I'll keep it going for the foreseeable future, but if something less dicey comes along, I'll probably migrate over there. We would also appreciate any and all positive reviews on Spotify and Apple Music or wherever it is you listen to this podcast to help make it easier for other craft beer listeners to find us. If you want to be a supporter of the podcast with some extra change that you find in your couch cushions, I have a Patreon. There are 3 different monthly levels of support, and they are priced at $1, $3, or $5 a month. If you pledge at the $3 or $5 monthly level, you get some pretty cool perks. So go to patreon.com and search A One Pint Stand to check it out. We are up to 17 supporters, and I'm really excited for what that means for the show. If you like reading about craft beer, check out my written work on aonepintstand.com. I'm slowly but surely getting more articles up, so keep an eye there if you want to read about what I'm doing. I truly appreciate you listening and taking time to enjoy our stories. Now, before we head back to the show, I want to talk about this episode's sponsor, Railworks Brewing Depot. It's a new brew pub in the heart of Columbia Heights. Railworks serves up a wide variety of beer, handcrafted cocktails, and delicious smoked meats. Their large space is host to several weekly events, including meat raffles, bingo, general knowledge and music trivia, live music, and comedy shows. So grab some family, some friends, or come on in by yourself and make a new friend. Railworks Brewing Depot, where the beer is cold, the barbecue is smoking, and family is everything. RailworksBrewingDepot.com.
How about a beer?
Okay, we're back for the second half of our interview here at Town Hall Brewery at Seven Corners in Minneapolis with Derek Brown and Mike Hoops, and we're going to talk about the upcoming Barrel Age Week that goes from Thursday, February 20th to Sunday, March 2nd. And now we've got these fancy Tiku glasses with this nice reddish liquid with like a little bit of a kind of violet kind of blush head, little teeny tiny bubbles. It smells really good. Fruity. There's a little bit of a kind of a funk. You can smell there's going to be a little bit of a funk in there. Oh, wow. Oh, that's good. That's good, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's a nice bit of kind of tartness, but very effervescent. And I kind of like how it very much settles into kind of almost like a wine-like aftertaste for me. What? If you tell me this is a mixture of Robitussin and Sprite, this interview's over. What are we drinking here? This sounds fascinating.
This is the Balaton barrel that we were previously discussing.
Okay. Yeah, this is a treat. Now, I'm assuming this will be one of the 25 offerings that people should have on their radar.
Correct.
For barrel aged weeks.
Yep. Only at the brewery. It's not in cans.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
You got to come here. And give a pro tip. Actually, I'm kind of curious, because I'm sure the both of you get to enjoy the food here all the time. What's your go-to
For food?
Yeah. Is it hard to choose?
No, not really. I mean, for me, it's, you have hamburgers available all the time.
Yeah.
So choosing not to take that route, I've become pretty disciplined on that. So I do eat a lot of just our house salad with chicken. It's always good. But
that was the boring answer.
I know. I was afraid to answer that one.
Visiting Town Hall, as he said, we're known for our burgers, and we do great pub food. Our Brewer's Double is a burger worth having. Our chicken sandwich, the fried chicken sandwich, is also a sandwich worth having. We've got a Greek bowl that both of us actually eat quite a bit. But we're here every day, and I'm an old man. The last thing I need to do is be eating chicken sandwiches, fried sandwiches,
Right, yeah,
and so I my allotment for our Brewer's Double is like once every 6 weeks. Really, I eat a lot of salads as well.
Yeah.
And each location has their own unique menu.
Yes, I was going to say,
So,
they're not all
yeah.
the same. A lot
Right.
of it, which is a great reason to kind of go around and visit all the other locations. All right, so 25 beers are releasing. One of the things I wanted to start talking about is when the beer is made and you're starting to think about, okay, let's look at our barrel inventory. What do we have? What might we be running low on? Talk to me about how you plan for how you're going to which barrels you need to replenish, and then if and when there are openings in the portfolio for like, hey, we want to do a new beer. We're looking for something that maybe has these characteristics. How does that research process start between the two of you? I have to imagine that there's a lot of synergy there. How does that go?
A lot of it has to do with barrel sourcing, what we can get a hold of. We're pretty persnickety about getting stuff that's fresh, and if we stick our nose in it, it usually prompts ideas that we go forward with.
Okay.
One thing that's a little bit that's new this year. We got to the point where we started, much like traditional port makers, we started blending different beers together for different characteristics that match certain barrels. So this year there's I don't know 4 or 5 of them that might have a blend of vintage beers put together, and those blends were done about 2 years ago, and that's one thing that's taken us to, I think, a different level, and that's Firestone Walker's been doing that forever, and that was a conversation we started talking about. Are they doing this because they have products that they want to they have too much, so they blend them and sell something else, or are they doing them ahead of time? And we didn't know that answer, but we started talking. Well, we have the beers made, so let's try to do it ahead of time and marry it to the barrel, and that's been a really wonderful thing. Also, just products, foods, experiences. They prompt ideas, and then we try to figure out how to do it and find barrels that accompany that as well.
How often, when you're going to kind of come up with a plan, will let's say you start talking with a distillery, is it always kind of like the kind of normal standard operating procedure to have pretty freshly dumped barrels? Are those the ones you're getting, or do you have to kind of get lucky with that? Would you ever get like a dry barrel from someplace and be like, well, no, we can't use this. This will be, or can you use a dry barrel?
You can. My experience here, we worked really hard to get the wet barrel. It's kind of that's really what we're after. Mm-hmm. And it's not just any wet barrel. It's intentional first by brand, and then you got to work a little harder to find the right person to talk to then get it before it's treated, so to speak. They do things down there for their yields and for their industry that can affect how much distillate's actually left in that wood. But if you get to the right person at the right time, or you have the right contacts by going down there, mostly, or at least putting effort in calling, you can get that wet barrel. Yeah.
I mean, thinking back, Mike, to when you started doing it, you said like the first time you just kind of went door to door. Is that, when you're sourcing barrels, do you still, is that still kind of like the bread and butter way to do it? Or I know distilleries have, just like breweries, there's a lot of changing in how the industry works, and maybe that's not the way anymore.
It's difficult now because the barrels are being used for a lot more things. Companies are more diverse, and barrels are used for a lot of different products. Whether it's hot sauce or tequila or rum or scotch, or you go on and on. They're finding more uses for those barrels, where before they were, they'd cut them in half and put them at the hardware store as a planter box. And,
right.
and now they realize, oh, well, we own a winery, or we own a this or that, and we can use them. So they're actually, oftentimes they take the staves apart and ship them across the ocean or wherever they're going. So they have a lot more use for them. So knocking on doors, getting barrels these days is difficult.
Sure.
That being said, on our upcoming trip, we're going to a distiller that we haven't been to before that has a lot of history, and we're going to try to face-to-face see if we can establish that relationship. So it's something we still do because, and actually there's another distiller a well-established one that we haven't used their barrels before. We were able to get some non-rinsed of their product this year, so we're picking up some to see how they work for us as well. So that never stops.
Okay. How many total barrels do you have in your inventory currently? Just give me a ballpark number.
Well, we just harvested most of 2 years ago. Let's see, 30-ish right now, and that'll get re-upped twice this year. It's going to go up to 70s.
Okay.
I would guess.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. That's...
With the wild ones, we we're
Oh,
getting
yeah, it's
yeah
not
we're
including
getting
that.
Yeah, it's not even including that. It's depending upon. It used to be we would have 40. We would harvest them and we would fill them and harvest them, and it was on a calendar schedule until we realized that's not the way to do it. You let the barrel mature and then you harvest it. And now it might approach 100 or 125 depending upon the time of year and how how good our yield was when we went to Kentucky, if we ended
Sure.
up with
Yeah.
a full truck or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with 2 trips too, that's going to be mighty nice to stack up.
Yeah. So how you said you go a couple times a year. Is there kind of like is there a best time of year to go, or can you just kind of like go whenever? I'm thinking like, if somebody were going to like try to time like the Cherry Blossom Festival in Washington D.C. Well, you got to be there for this week.
Yeah.
Or is it kind of just like there's never a bad time to go to try to talk to people to try to get barrels?
I would think not around the Derby time.
Well, right, yeah.
Well, we used to do it. We used to go based on, it's Christmas time, so everybody's dumping. There must be barrels available, and until we established a little bit better relationships, then it doesn't really matter. And quite honestly, now it's when there's space in our cellar, and the beers are not only brewed, but we brew them and age them even before they go into the barrel.
Right.
So right now we're sitting around with a bunch of full tanks, and we need to get it out of the brewery and into the barrel. So that's pretty much telling us when to go.
Okay.
And, there's less traffic there in the wintertime as well. So there's oftentimes a winter trip.
Yeah. So having 25 barrel-aged beers on this year, how many barrels will that be? Like, how much of your inventory will you be like, all right, you said, is it 20, 25? And
Wooden barrels?
yeah.
Oh, it's more than that.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Because I guess what's the, and it probably varies from beer to beer, but like, what is the average batch size, barrel-wise, of like how much you go through for barrel-aged week?
In barrel age week, I remember we're harvesting for the whole year,
Right.
until the next barrel age week too. For the most part, we harvest again at anniversary, because there's just so much demand for it right now.
Mm-hmm.
We ran out last year. We'll run out again.
Yeah.
It's just we can't keep up with it.
We're not complaining. We're very, very, very happy.
No, that's
Yeah, absolutely. It's
yeah,
just-
from what you said
yeah.
earlier, that's kind of not that's the exception to the rule.
So it's there's 40 probably that are harvested just for this February event, and then
Okay.
more will happen at anniversary. Which now that I'm thinking about it, that's a third trip probably. But yeah,
Oh,
quite
shucks.
a bit.
This is a big one because we have run out the last 2 seasons, and typically for the watershed we donate somewhere around 25-ish barrels to 30 maybe per year. And I was counting them the other day, and I think we're damn near 40 this year.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So thinking about like kind of replenishing, and you said you've got extra space. When it comes to, barrels that, when you're like trying to entertain, I'm thinking about all the different distilleries down in Kentucky that you can choose from. There's bourbon. There's also, you use other barrels, other spirit barrels as well. So how do you, like when you're looking for a new one, how do you start? Like, do you say, well, we've still got a lot of these bourbon barrels, but maybe we want to try to get something like this?
That's something we did last year a bunch, and we're not only supplied through whiskey distilleries, we work with wineries as well, and there are plenty of people that got into there's brokers that are moving barrels, and that's something we've always stayed away from. And I hit it was like a vampire with a cross, trying to stay away from the brokers because we get them fresh. But in time, I met some of these people and started to talk about how they handle their barrels, where they come from, the relationships that they in fact have as well. And some of those are now coming from we are working with, as a matter of fact, we're meeting with a new broker that we'd never worked with before. And I contacted him. I said, what you guys are doing it appears like it's wonderful. I've been watching it for a while, and we're going to come on down. We'd like to stop by and have you show us what your setup is. So we're going to go through. I don't know how many we'll buy there or not, but it'll be based on the quality that we can kind of see.
Yeah.
And that's where we've got some tequila and rum barrels aging now, and those came from a broker.
Okay.
And we were very, very pleased when we got them. The both of them were pretty exciting when we did sensory on them.
Okay.
Yeah, and you almost need the broker for that one because you can't very well drive down to some of these locations or across the ocean to get them. You
Port
have to have
barrels.
somebody,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
port barrels. Yeah, or the rum or the tequila. You have to have somebody that's in that industry bringing them to you, or at least you can go see them.
Mm-hmm. Now, we talked about the temperatures in the rick houses in Kentucky kind of vary, where the placement. Once you have the beer in barrels in your rick house here, do you keep the temperature consistent? Because, when I think about aging beer, aging packaged beer in your cellar, I think that you both would probably echo this sentiment, but when a brewery or a brew pub makes a beer and serves it, if it's been spending time in a vessel, it's served when it's ready. So you really shouldn't be holding on to barrel-aged beers much longer than after you buy them. Is that true?
I think for the most part, yeah. Like Mike said earlier, and I said too, that the barrels really do tell you when they're ready.
Yeah.
So that's kind of peak time to taste, at least what we're interpreting as this is now what we really want you to have.
Yep.
That's not to say that some of them over time might go one way or the other.
Yeah.
I think that's all how, somebody's going to, if they like vintage beer, they like beer that's well-aged, then they're already bought into it.
Yeah.
Because they've held on to it for that long. They're going to love it, probably. Because they're taking the time to cellar it. It's kind of, yeah.
But for your purposes, once you put the beer into barrels, is it at a consistent temperature, or is it kind of like fluctuating to kind of maybe take on some of that same scientific, magical process that the bourbon does?
We started doing that when we realized, much like you said earlier, when we saw that the temperature is so important to the distillers, let's try this too. So we started with just room temperature, and then we started with cold temperatures and going back and forth. There's only one distiller down there that rotates them throughout the rick house currently. That's something we didn't really want to do. But at this point, everything that we have is temperature controlled in one way, shape, or form.
Okay. When it comes to the barrels themselves, I know that there are different types of levels of char. Have you found that, maybe a darker char tends to be better versus a lightly toasted barrel, or is it kind of up to that specific barrel when it comes to interacting with beer?
Yeah, I think it's also going to depend on what malts you got in there too. If you got some black malts in there and you got a really, really dark char, you're going to have to watch that pretty closely. That char starts taking hold, and you got to, I guess, depending on what you're going for, you got to watch how much that really grabs onto it.
Yeah.
And it's not an instant reaction either. So you got time on your side to kind of slowly walk around with it and see if it becomes overcharred or not. It might creep into that wood deeper than you thought.
Sure. Yeah.
And grab some of those sweet characters and balance out the char all on its own.
Okay.
It's, I think, part of some of the magic of trying new char or trying new distillers and learning there. We worked with the new one a couple years in a row. That was just awesome. And it had a different char to it. And totally different styles of beer were playing better in it than I was thinking.
Okay.
And that was unexpected. I wouldn't have guessed it on paper that would have worked like that. But The fact is, it probably went further in there, reached into some of those sweeter characters, and balanced itself out.
Yeah. I guess that's a good question too. I mean, when you have that experience with a new kind of a barrel, and you're like, "Well, we're getting all sorts of these flavors." Are you tempted then to go back and be like, "Okay, now traditionally we've put this beer in this barrel, but I wonder if we should try some in this barrel and just see." I guess going back to that R&D part where you get to just kind of like play. I mean, this is the fun stuff, right?
100%. That's happened a lot where, said beer, this brand always is in that barrel. But boy, that one over there is amazing.
Yeah.
So then we try to continue it, and that's how we learn what they'll do for us. And it's, as Derek alluded to earlier, it's amazing how consistent they are, even in our little aging area. Mm-hmm. And you talked about, the warehouses in Kentucky, they're blending. How can they do this? We need from that rick house or that level. Well, I think they find they're pretty consistent. Even here they are. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, when in your just kind of like if you go to look at bourbon, there's little descriptors on the labels, adjectives that will clue you into something. Sometimes a bottle of bourbon will say small batch. Sometimes a bottle of bourbon will say single barrel. Sometimes it says straight whiskey. All of those things mean kind of like relate to batch size or amount of time a beer has spent in that vessel. Some of the verbiage that people have become familiar with for barrel-aged week is like sometimes you'll have a single barrel. Sometimes you have a double barrel. Sometimes you've had a star barrel. What do some of those descriptors mean so people coming in aren't like, oh gosh, I don't know how to read this menu. There's a lot of descriptors on here that are a little strange. Because a big part of I remember my first time coming to Barrel Age Week, and I was very intimidated. I'm like, I don't know, because I didn't know very much about bourbon. So like some of the names, I'm like, well, what do these names mean? And then like some of the styles, I'm like, I've never had a Weizenbach before. What is that? Why should So trying to set people up for success to not have that like deer in the headlights look. Although it's quite common to be here for Barrel Age Week and just see somebody kind of staring off into nowhere, drooling, because all of the beers are quite delicious. Can you take me through some of those descriptors that they might see on the menu?
That's great information. When you said you walked in and you were intimidated because there's just so much stuff, that's great information. And we have tried to include a lot of descriptions on those menus over the years. This year's, you'll find it's very, very different. It's much more slimmed down for the reason that you just mentioned, because there are plenty of people that are new to this, and they don't want to know the history of said distiller from whenever. Some people do, and we're happy to share that with them.
Yeah.
But also, some of the distillers we've got relationships with directly, where we sign a waiver that says we won't say we're using your barrels.
Right.
So some of those names are that's because of it. But yeah, it's much more slimmed down. It's less implanting. If I suggest that you're going to taste this in this beer, for example, you probably will. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to relieve that a little bit and let the customers fully experience their own experience. And as a community brew pub, that this place has kind of been, as you mentioned, you sit and you talk to your neighbor about what you're tasting. There's nobody right or wrong.
Yeah.
So there's fewer descriptors this year on purpose to let people blossom with their own experience.
I appreciate that. I think on one hand, it's helpful to kind of get some of that guidance on like what should I be finding, but I also think it's like, you definitely kind of lock in on a descriptor, and that maybe prevents you from finding something else that might be in the beer.
Curry,
yes, that's right.
It was there. It really was. It was shocking.
I'm very curious about what that was. I think if you are a bourbon fan, sometimes it's easy to kind of figure out what the bourbon might be based on the name, but
finding your own path through it sometimes is helpful too.
Yeah. Now here's a question for the both of you, but maybe Mike, you might lean into this more. Just because a bourbon tastes fantastic, does that mean that that barrel will automatically lend itself to a fantastic aged beer?
No, absolutely not. Oftentimes it does, yes. But here's an example. I'm not going to say what it was, but we got a barrel a number of years ago that from a great distiller, great whiskey, and the barrel presented so much mesquite smoke that we did not expect, that it completely altered the use of it that we intended to use it for. And was it something we won't use again? I'm not going to try really hard to get another one.
Yeah.
But it's not one-to-one. And how are they treated? And, another thing, too, there are distillers now that toast their barrels as well as char them. So there's all kinds of stuff happening out there, and you got to try to navigate that and see how that works as well. We've had really good luck with one distiller that does do that. There's also one that didn't work very well.
Okay. Yeah. I think that there's just so many, to me, there's so many variables, when you're thinking about, what might work well. Are you at liberty to say, tease some of the beers that might be on the list, or do we want to keep people in suspense and just have them come in? Now, this episode will be dropping tonight to get people real excited. So, it's Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
Punxsutawney Phil saw a shadow. There's going to be 6 more weeks of winter, so people are probably need something to look forward to. So can we tease a couple of the beers that maybe crowd favorite beers that might be on the menu?
I guess most of the crowd favorites are back. It's been a few years where, for example, ETW didn't make it. It just wasn't ready. That's back.
Oh,
3106 is back.
Thank the Lord.
Yep. There is I can say this, I think. There is a Star Barrel.
Oh.
And that'll be, people are going to love that one, I think.
Now tell me what does Star Barrel mean?
Well, you got single barrel, right? That's intended to tell you that it came from a single barrel.
Yep.
Star Barrel it came from a single barrel, and it was exceptional. It just was, when we were tasting it, just blew us away.
A Sharpie on the barrel, put a star on it. It's like, wow, this week as a marker.
Yeah.
And then we looked at it, and it's like, oh, star. Oh, yeah, it's a star. We should utilize that. And there's only been one prior.
Yeah. I think Mike will have more of the broad menu. I think there's a really unique one that we're releasing this year.
Okay.
I won't give too much away on it, but it's iced. So, when you take an iced beer when you take a beer and you ice it, you're concentrating all the flavors.
Yep.
Right? That's ice bock. You can get that. Well, we decided to do it in a barrel-aged beer. Thus
interesting.
Concentrating all the flavors from both the barrel and the beer.
Okay.
I think that's going to be very unique for people to come in and try. At least give it a shot.
Yeah.
We're both on board. It worked. It was a guess.
Okay.
You don't know. You're taking another producer's product and yours at the same time and concentrating it. So there's a lot of learning that's coming along with that too.
And sometimes you have to take a flyer on something. And I think that, the both of you have enough training, knowledge, where I think that you can put yourself in a pretty good place to make a fairly educated guess about something that may or may not work. I know that everybody asks this question at the preview brunch usually, but I'll ask it here and maybe I'll get a different answer. Mike, do you have a favorite barrel-aged beer? I know that's like asking somebody like, who's your favorite kid or who's your favorite pet, but like...
It's a great question. And that's the answer that everybody always gives. Well, you're asking me if I have a favorite kid.
Yep.
I mean, come on. But this is an inanimate object. So in this case, this year, you know what, I'm going to tell you directly the answer. This year, the Double Barrel Manhattan Reserve is unlike anything we've ever had before, and it was just shocking to me what it is. It's tremendous. That is my favorite one this year. However, the one he's talking about, the iced beer, is also tremendous because it came out of a port barrel, and it was lovely and delicate. Now, we've got 3 different port barrels that we're releasing this year. And
Oh, wow.
for people that don't know, we got to learn a bunch about port, and it's a big world out there that is even more fun to learn more things about. For example, there's a white port. Were you aware of that?
No.
Okay, so there's stuff out there. It's not just great big, huge, sweet, red, fruity beer.
Okay.
It's really a deep category. And this thing came out, it was delicate. Derek said, let's ice it. And what happened when those flavors concentrated, I mean, we've been doing this a long time, and it was still like a kid in a candy store, like,
Yeah.
wow, this is the greatest day ever. So we're really happy to be able to share some of those.
I just think that's amazing, to be doing it for as long. And I would imagine it's like with so many good ones, you probably can't be like too crazy about like, well, let's try to look for, something else. Sometimes it's like, the grass isn't greener on the other side of the fence. We've got these
Yep.
core things. When you say double barrel, will you define what that means as it relates to
Sure.
barrel aged week?
Double barreling is something that you see it in whiskeys as well. You see it at other breweries as well. I don't know what they do. What we do with a double barrel is we take a beer, we put it inside of a barrel, we age it to full maturity. And then if we decide we want to make a double barrel out of it, we get a brand new fresh barrel that we think is appropriate.
Oh, okay.
We remove it from the first barrel, we put it in the second one, and we age it another full cycle.
Okay.
Until we determine it's ready. So it's double aged in double oak. There's 2 different barrels.
Okay.
So it's really authentic. That's one thing with a lot of the stories that we tell on our menu. If it's a single barrel, it's a single barrel.
Yeah.
If it's a double aged, it's double aged. I mean, we don't throw a lot of commercial crap at it to try to sell more beer. Fortunately, people are buying it and enjoying it. So when they can see it, it's authentic. And so, yeah, that's a cool thing. Sometimes we have also got something called double oaked. We started doing a while ago where we'll take for example, a bourbon barrel, age it to maturity, and then pull it out and put it in a wine barrel. So there's 2 different
okay.
types of oak and aging it that way. So
And that pulls in, an oaked wine barrel is going to be very different from an oaked bourbon barrel.
correct, yeah.
And pulling those things together. Is there a style that you haven't done yet where you're like, you know what? Given like maybe some of the new barrel processes that you've seen, maybe this beer might work with that. Is there like, because I know that you've got just an overwhelming amount of like options. Where, are you thinking about new stuff, or is it more kind of just like, well, if this thing works, maybe we could like think about that? Are you constantly like, I would imagine, when I'm thinking, I like to cook a lot. So like if I'm trying to if I made a recipe that was really good and then my mind says, well, I wonder if I change these couple ingredients, would it, to add in a different texture, or maybe more spice or sweetness or something like that. Is that kind of like how much of your brain occupies that space of just like constantly trying to come up with something new?
Well, I think opening up the door with blending has really opened the door to that. Creating more beer might not necessarily be good for us. It's, new opportunities for new barrels. We can create blends too that are going to hopefully work out really well. It's fairly new to us, but we're exploring it quite a bit. As far as new brands go, we got the core ones, right? And just using the core ones and using time and different barrels and different barrel aging techniques, we've now got ourselves up to 25. I don't know how much more we want to squeeze in that. Mm-hmm. The port barrels were definitely a new thing, which is adding to the menu without creating a whole lot of strain on the brewery itself. So I think keep exploring, for me at least, if I was asked, keep exploring in the barrel world. There is just so much out there.
Yeah.
And using the beers we got, if they fit. If we found a new barrel that was just like, nope, we got to create a whole new beer for this, then it would be a discussion. Well, if we make, how much are we going to make and how much are we going to sell? Being responsible too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mike said his favorite beer. Derek, what's your favorite beer? I'm not letting you off the hook.
Let's see. I'm probably gonna go with this Balaton.
Okay. Yeah, this is very good.
Yeah, and it's a bummer because it's not anything to do with while we're going to be here for 10 days giving you all the bourbon barrel aged stuff. But this is, as a young brewer, you only read about this. When I was a young brewer, I'm not young anymore. But you only read about this, in Belgian books.
Right.
And now here we are doing it.
Yeah.
It took a lot of time to get there. This didn't just happen very quickly. So watching this come onto the taps is going to be really rewarding, and it's really enjoyable. It's good. I like it.
Yeah. This is, earlier when we were talking about, how would you describe Town Hall to somebody? I think you've said that you're not the most innovative brewery when it comes to new things. And I would argue that you're quite innovative because innovation can have a lot of different definitions, right? And your processes and your commitment to the standard that you put for everything, I think that is quite innovative.
I've been hung up on that since I said it.
Well, I'm glad we came back to it. Yeah,
and I didn't mean to take the rug out and say we're not trying new things and being creative. We definitely are.
You definitely don't chase trends. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think that's the broad statement was that, and that's not to try to be different.
Yep.
That's just not where we're at. Our process is really, that is helping us change or be innovative and create new beers. Just the process alone.
Yeah. Well, and I think, the pendulum is always kind of swinging with a lot of things, but especially with craft beer. There was, in 2016, 2017, the pendulum very much swung into, people seeking out juicy, hazy IPAs. The really fruited sours became very popular, and pastry stouts became very popular. And with a lot of breweries, you would see maybe an overrepresentation of those styles available on their tap list at the cost of maybe some of the kind of dance with the date you brought type of thing. People knew you for your brown ale, and all of a sudden that's not on tap anymore in lieu of this smoothie sour with ground up sweetheart candies in it. And it's like, well, maybe we've lost our way a little bit. I feel like it's coming back. Do you notice when you're analyzing things that people are wanting, does it seem like people are asking for more of those kind of, classic styles?
Based on what we're selling, I don't think they're necessarily asking for it. I think people are finding their way to it and enjoying it more, and we have almost an equal amount of them altogether, so there's a lot to pick and choose from.
Yeah.
That said, we still do West Coast IPAs, and we'll make one hazy a year. Yeah. And just to we want to, we make root beer. We accommodate, we got a lot of NA products. We like to accommodate, we're a brew pub. We have spirits and wine.
Yeah. You have that luxury.
Yep. And that's the whole goal, is to make sure everybody who walks in here, if you're not even drinking, the food is here for you. The table service. If you need a napkin, if you need water, we're here for you.
And that's one thing I really like. I think this is probably not on accident. The staff here is really knowledgeable and helpful, and I just always feel like that's one kind of maybe a great quality about Town Hall that doesn't maybe get enough press, is that your staff here is outstanding, and that adds to the experience too. Let's talk bourbon now. As somebody like me who's kind of becoming more and more fascinated with the whole bourbon scene, what are some suggestions that you would have for people looking to travel down to Kentucky? If you could pick maybe 5 distilleries that, for whatever reason, have kind of tickled your fancy or caught your eye, what would they be?
I really enjoyed going out to see Woodford because it was out there in horse country, and it was a different experience than being down in Louisville, or Bourbon Row and all the bars and everything. It was really unique. It was really cool. And then Bardstown, getting out there and just kind of experience. It's just such a big part of what they're doing down there.
Yeah,
you can almost go anywhere and get filled, so to speak.
Yeah.
But and then Four Roses, that's one of my favorites. That's, yeah, get there if you can.
Okay. How about you, Mike?
Wild Turkey is definitely worth a visit. It's one of the most beautiful places, and their Russell's products in particular. Jimmy's still alive, 70 years. He's been doing it. That's definitely worth a scene. At Bardstown, you have to go experience the hospitality at the Talbot Tavern. Late night, the bar at the Brown Hotel in Louisville is something worth a visit.
Okay.
There's lots of them. As I said, those trips, Pete and I had some of our best times and we've accomplished some of our best and worst behaviors.
I think that's really the mark of a great vacation, as you're kind of taking stock. And I mentioned I went there last summer, and the last night of my stay, I walked up the street to a place called the Hilltop Tavern. And I was sitting there at the bar, just kind of looking through some of my notes that I had taken earlier in the day. And somebody came up and they said, "Hey, I'd like a Eagle Rare Old Fashioned." And I thought to myself, why would you take Eagle Rare? Which is, I mean, that's another shift in perspective when you can just see all these sought after bourbons just available everywhere. But I was like, because I had ordered a Old Forester Old Fashioned. I was like, oh, okay. So I asked the bartender, I'm like, why did he just order an Eagle Rare Old Fashioned? And the bartender was like, well, yeah, that's our special tonight, $8 Eagle Rare Old Fashioned. And I'm like, well, how much for just a regular pour of Eagle Rare? He's like, $8. And I'm like, okay, I think
That's why you go to the source.
yes,
Yeah.
like $8 for a pour of Eagle Rare Old Fashioned. That's not bad. When you think of it, what it would cost here.
Yep.
But just having it still available. Now, one thing that I want to mention that I don't think I've ever really asked you about is you have a fantastic bourbon selection here. And I think when I'm coming in, I'm always kind of in that beer lane. But one time I exited out of the beer lane and had a delicious old fashioned here. And I was like, wow, that is a real eye opener. It gets glossed over. What are some, again, kind of going back to maybe somebody coming into Town Hall for the first time because maybe all their friends have been talking about this barrel-aged week and like, oh, I haven't made it there yet. I'll go. But maybe they're not a beer person. What's a cocktail that seems to really sell well here that you would want to highlight?
I go down. I was just down at the Sidecar for the first time. We've had that for years.
Yeah.
And I just never had the time to go down there, and I was blown away by their cocktails down there.
Yeah.
They're so good.
No, they do a nice old fashioned. They do we do something called a Town Car, which is our own version of a very classic cocktail, but the Town Car is tremendous. And that's the beautiful thing about Town Hall. Yeah, that's an old brew pub that does a lot of traditional beer styles, but you know what else we do? NA beers and wine and spirits. All of that is available here. So if people don't want barrel-aged beer, no problem. We got everything that any restaurant would have for you.
As you look back, both of you, as you look back at your time here, what are you most proud of as it relates to Barrel-Aged Week?
The fact that it exists, the fact that the passion, I still get to experience the passion, and I have some sort of apparent problem in my head that I still enjoy it as much as I do, but I get to. And this Balaton, the whole journey behind making this beer, I said something to him the other day when we tasted it that I've never said before. It's an accomplishment. So we get to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be the same thing I would say too. People showing up. We can make as much beer as we want to, but you've got to have people showing up, or else it's for nothing. And to see the same people returning and trusting what we're doing, that's, and keeping people employed and keeping the lights on here, that's sort of part of all of it. It's all encompassing. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
And that really does show through in this, this 10-day window. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. I think it's it really is a gift to all of us who come in, not just for Barrel Age Week, but to come in and really try something that I feel is pretty special. The beers that you have are well-made beers. You're not taking any shortcuts, and you're doing it the right way, and I really appreciate that. So I want to thank you both for sitting down with me. So if people want to find information about Barrel Age Week, Town Hall Brewery social media has all the details. Go to the website. But Barrel Age Week starts on Thursday, February 20th and goes to Sunday, March 2nd. There will be 25 wonderful options to choose from. You don't need to try to figure out which days you need to come in. They'll all be available until they're out.
Yeah, I don't think any will run out this 10-day window either. So
challenge accepted. Especially with that ETW. I will be there with my funnel.
I spoke too soon.
But yeah, seriously, thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun.
In.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it very much.
Let's get a cheers with our make the sound effects. There we go. Barrel Aged Week is my favorite celebration of barrel-aged beer in Minnesota. The way that artistry meets science in this process shows masterfully in each sip of beer at Town Hall. This year, there are 25 wonderful things to try, and I'm sure I will be there quite often. I think that Derek and Mike are wonderful to chat beer with. They are both so intelligent and knowledgeable about their craft. They're also some of the most humble and soft-spoken folks in the industry, and I hope that you head to Town Hall for Barrel Aged Week to see for yourself how they have literally put their hearts and souls into the beers. Now, I want to give a special thank you to Marcus Dodson, Chuck Dorsey, Vicky Epper, Daniel Fisher, Todd Fitzloff, Matt Holton, Cable Lefto, Ben Michaels, Sophia Masagi, Brent Newman, Bree Smith, and Sarah Cry Valento for being Kegstander level supporters of the One Pint Stand Patreon. You've all shown incredible generosity, and I'm grateful for it. Cheers to you all, and thank you for your tremendous support. I also want to give a huge thanks again to the sponsor for this episode, Railworks Brewing Depot. Nestled in the heart of Columbia Heights, Minnesota, Railworks is a family-friendly hub for all your drinking and dining needs. Come by for great beer, delicious cocktails, and smoke and barbecue. Check out their website to keep up to date with taproom happenings, railworksbrewingdepot.com. With that, this has been another episode of A One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast where the pants stay on, but the caps come off. Cheers.
You know, when we go on these trips and we only drank glasses of whiskey because we were doing research, of course.
Right, yeah. But there's no other reason
Obviously.
to want to consume bourbon other than research purposes, right?